Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Platinum Award-winning singer and lyricist Mark Winkler and Grammy-nominated pianist and composer David Benoit on their newest 2021 CD called Old Friends. We caught up with them during the COVID-19 pandemic to discuss music, their lives lately, their return to live music, and so much more about their essence and their long friendship. Enjoy.
Gentlemen, thank you for taking a minute out from Neon Jazz. It's a pleasure and it's an honor to speak with both of you.
Thanks, Joe.
Oh, my pleasure.
Let's start off here, and I'm going to be hyper-specific. You've had prolific storied careers in jazz, but I really want to focus on you two in this very strange time on planet Earth with the pandemic and all the other things that America has its ability to throw into the kitchen sink. So let's start off with, when all this began, I thought, man, this is a weird time to release an album. You can't tour live, but I'm starting to think the longer we go into this and we have a new calendar year, this has to be maybe a comforting thing to be able to get material out and put it into people's hands. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, there wouldn't have been an album probably without the epidemic, because it started like a week before the lockdown happened in March. David his Japanese tour had been canceled, and he was home alone. His wife, Kay, had already gone to Japan to meet him, so he was home alone. He called me up and said, I'd love to cook dinner. Do you want to come over? And I said, sure. And I brought my boyfriend, Michael, over, and David's a really good cook. We had a wonderful dinner, and then we went over to the piano afterwards and started singing. And somewhere in the middle of Shadow of Your Smile, David looked at me and said, why don't we do an album? And then I would never have gotten so many rehearsals with him if it hadn't been for the pandemic, because he's on the road all the time.
That pandemic was kind of a mixed blessing in that sense.
Which is what I'm discovering with a lot of things. And I think it's pushing musicians to be more producers and to be more aggregators of their own reality. Are you seeing kind of a positive mutation of this pandemic on musicians in the world of jazz?
Well, I think yes, I think there's more. My radio promoter tells me that he's never had so many CDs come his way. So a lot of people have been making CDs, but in David's case, and David can talk about this, his whole touring schedule last year got canceled.
And Mark had an interesting point in preparing for the record we did together. I usually am pretty busy touring and doing all sorts of things. And plus, I'm not a guy who likes to rehearse anyway. I'm one that just, I like to go to the studio and figure it out, so that sometimes works for me, sometimes it hasn't. But in this case, it was like, well, I'm looking at my calendar, why not? So we got together several times. Every time we got together, it was so much fun, because we would spend a good portion of our getting together just telling stories over a sandwich or dinner or a glass of wine, So we had several of those occasions, and it was a chance for us to just explore standards and try new keys, and it was really a nice process. And so by the time we went into the studio, we were very, very prepared. It was very relaxed. It was, I can remember so many sessions where we're just on the seat of our pants trying to figure it out, and this was so mellow because everybody kind of knew what to do, and we even had which is unheard of, an actual rehearsal for the recording session. Mark, thank you for that. So
thank you.
It was such a nice experience to come in the studio being so prepared and relaxed.
I heard that from another musician this week that mentioned that they never had time to get to know their bandmates, never really got to sit down and get to know them as humans. And I think I've been hearing this kind of reverberate more lately than anything else, that this is giving people more of a relaxed notion and giving them time to actually know each other without running around like crazy all the time.
It's a good point. Yeah,
that's the good side of it. But the bad side of it is it's harder to make money. It's a very big revenue source is not there. So that's the negative side.
I guess
tops and rainbows.
Exactly. No, none of this is, and the whole world's going through this kind of traumatic experience together. It's like, I guess my question to you is this: as we get into a new year, I think there was kind of this notion that there was going to be this magic unicorn that was going to touch 2021, and we're going to have all of this newness. But there's been a lot of really good things that have happened. So my question to you, two very seasoned performers that are very attuned to the live world, what are you seeing as kind of the snowball, so to speak, builds up as we go through this year, where you're going to be in a point where you're going to be performing and people are going to be out and life is going to come back, so to speak?
As someone that's made their living touring, and that touring has, of course I miss the income. At my age, I'm lucky that I have some fixed income coming now, and so we're okay. But a lot of it has to do with, you get used to touring, and that's a routine. So when that's cut off and all of a sudden it stops, I mean, I have dreams every single night. I'm in Indonesia. I'm in some state. I'm on the road. I'm at the sound check. It's such a part of our lives that when it was so abrupt. In March of last year, it just ended. And I've never experienced anything like it. My poor manager, I was one of several clients he had to call and say, everything is canceled. And it was just jarring. So I have to admit, part of me feels like I don't know if it is coming back. I mean, I think it is, but I feel like I don't want to get it's like when poor restaurants tried to open and they close again and then they open. You don't want to get your expectations up. The truth is we don't know. And you're right. 2021, it's not a magic bullet. It's not like all of a sudden it's all back. No, we've got a ways to go. That's for sure.
I was a little bit luckier because I do a lot of teaching. And so I just switched over to online classes, and actually I was teaching my behind off this year because some of the teachers didn't want to do the online stuff, and I did. So I've been working pretty hard online and doing my songwriting, and I from home. So and then I had some really good performances this year last year that got canceled, which was upsetting to me. But David tours a lot more than I do, and but I never would have gotten him. We never would have done this record, and it wouldn't have come out so great. We really just crafted it, and we just had a great time laughing and getting to know each other even more. So that's the positive side, and it's been a lot of making the record was a blast. It was a highlight for me of last year.
You were talking about have dreams, and you're in other areas. Are there like memories, magic moments from the stage that are coming into your head that are really kind of fueling you and helping you through this absence of live music that you think about and you're like, man, that was perfect. That was beautiful.
One point I was going to make on the positive side, because again, the negative part of me, the very cautious side is saying, well, I don't know what exactly is coming back and if I'm going to be included on that coming back. But on the positive side, I do think a lot of people are very restless and very anxious to hear live music. And then when it does come back, there could be a flood of people, just like it could be a flood of offers. It's very possible. It's like all of a sudden there could be a little mini renaissance because people have been cooped up. And I know as just strictly as a listener, we got used to just going over to vibrato or Catalina's or the Baked Potato to hear jazz, even though we're way out in the suburbs. We would go out there to have a little dinner, hear some live music, and I just miss that terribly. And of course, Mark, you're right, the epicenter. You're out in the valley where all the clubs.
I would go out like 3 times a week. I'm really a member of the singer community of Los Angeles, which is really a very nice community of people, and I would go out 3 times a week at least and see my friends perform, and they'd come to see me. So I really miss that social aspect, and it was fun. It's
funny, Mark, if I can add to that. I used to live in Studio City myself years ago. In fact, when I met you, I was still in Studio City. And if there's one thing I miss about Studio City is that I used to, exact same thing. The Baked Potato was 2 minutes from my house, and the Sound Room and Dante's and all the great jazz clubs were out there. And even 3 nights a week, absolutely. And so this is, and also it's part of this community of musicians. You go to the Baked Potato and you see so-and-so did a record date for this person or a TV film, and you have this community that you're in touch with, and now the only community is like on Facebook, or it's interesting to see how many studio musicians are on Facebook to talk about the old days.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah, it's wild. You know, during this time, too, it's been a real mirror for a lot of people. There's been a lot of reflective moments. We all kind of look within. So I'm going to ask each of you respectively this question. If you have a dream tonight and you run into your younger self right before you go professional and you really start getting at it, what advice would you give your younger self if you could give yourself one piece?
Mark, you want to go first?
Oh, yeah, I'll go first. You know, it's so funny you asked me this question because I thought about it yesterday. I thought about this exact thing. And what I would tell my younger self is don't sweat it, that it's not going to come exactly the way you thought it was going to happen, but you're going to have a really great life. And, you know, it gets better. You know, I would have told myself to relax a little bit because I was so ambitious and so overwrought about making it that I didn't enjoy myself as much as I could have, you know, in the early years because I didn't know if it was gonna happen the way I wanted it or not, you know, and I would tell my younger self, relax.
Beautiful.
That's me.
In my case, I would tell my younger self, you know, be a little more prepared. Go back to music school. Yeah, it's really true. If I could think back, in a way, I was like Mark. I was extremely ambitious, but I had this chutzpah that I could just do anything, and I've arrived. I'm here, baby. You know, I come into a recording session and I get a difficult piece of music and I couldn't sight read it, and it was really rough. So I got into a lot of situations that I thought I could handle, and I couldn't. And I guess if there's one thing I would, in looking back now, and it does kind of come back to what we talked about with Mark's album, you know, the incredible amount of preparation that we did for that record. And I really see, I never saw it when I was a kid. You know, I never thought preparation was that important. It's just jump in, man, and feel it and go for it. And so I really have a different perspective now on the importance of preparation. You know, the preparation meeting opportunity is the definition of its success, and I've had a lot of opportunity. I'm very lucky. So I just wish I'd been a little more prepared in certain situations now that I look back.
When we do get back in earnest, and you're back on stage, and we're in the audience, what do you hope we realize about this absence of live music? What silver linings do you hope we get from this time away?
If I can jump in on that, I hope that audiences that listen to jazz will realize how good they had it. And there'll be a new level of appreciation. I've seen posts on Facebook like this. Number one, stop talking. Don't, when the performer, even if there's, in all due respect to Mark, if there's not a singer on stage, if it's just a piano trio, sit and listen. It's not a chance for you to have a drink and talk to your buddies. I've dealt with that my whole career. You know, you play a really nice jazz club and then there's a few idiots sitting ringside that are just talking through the whole set. I just hope that people will realize, wow, now that it's taken away, how good they had it. This is live music. This is so important, and you cherish it a little more. And you know, you go to Japan, and you never hear a word until the applause, and so there's a tremendous respect for jazz, and I think that's true in Europe too. And I just hope in this country we really, respect the form and say, wow, we didn't know how good we had it.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
I wrote a song about it, Joe. It's called Somewhere in Brazil in the Valley, and it's about this singer singing while everybody's talking, and the pina colada machine is going on in the background. It drives me crazy too. You know, there's a club in LA which I'm not going to mention the name of, and it's a wonderful club, but the audience talks when the performers are on stage. And I was once going to see a friend of mine many times, and I would sit at this table, and people around me would be talking. I'd go, "Hey, this is my friend. I really want to hear them." And they'd go, "Oh yeah," and they'd be quiet for about 1 minute. Then they start talking again. It was like I don't, it drives me crazy. And I'm one of these people that I actually get nasty to people. You know, I hope somebody doesn't shoot me, but I really get nasty. I really hate it when people talk.
It's the worst. I hate that. Every jazz performer does. It's just awful. I hope that may be something that may be a silver lining in all this that changes.
Let's hope so.
Yeah, without a doubt. I know our time here is limited, but I have one question here that's almost 10 in one, and I want to ask each of you this. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, that you are living your life. Who do you think you are?
Mark?
Yeah, Joe, you've asked, I may be the wrong person or the right person, but, I'm old enough to know who I am. And one of the nice things about working with David on this record is I got a chance to sort of explore more of me, because David and I both share so many things, and we share the love of these composers that we sang their songs. We love Henry Mancini, and we love Johnny Mandel, and we love Burt Bacharach and Randy Newman. And David and I got a chance to really be ourselves. We weren't worried about being jazz, being smooth jazz, being pop. We just played the music and explored the songs of the music that we loved. And so I'm at the age, and I think David's at the age where we go, this is who I am. I know what I am as a singer. I know I love Bob Duro and can sing jazzy little up tunes, but I also love the ballads like, The Shadow of Your Smile and Leonard Bernstein. So I have the guts now to just do the stuff I really love to do, and that's what this album really, that's why I love this album so much, is it because it really shows a side of David that I don't think a lot of people have seen. It's a very sensitive side. Not that his albums are wonderfully sensitive, but I think we're both sort of like at the age where we just know who we are, and we've gotten a chance to do it on this record.
Yeah, I mean, I agree too, and I guess who I thought I was and who I am, I've become to realize maybe two different things. But I did really believe when I was young I was the next Leonard Bernstein. I was going to be the one. I was going to be John Williams or Andre Previn. My dream was to write film scores and conduct orchestras. That's really what I wanted to do. And jazz piano was just going to be like John Williams. It was just something I did when I was a kid, and then I'd eventually score the big motion pictures, and then I'd go on to conduct the London Symphony and have a few podium positions around the country. I had that idea that was what I was going to be, and then reality set in, and certainly I've had to accept, hey, okay, I'm not Tamir Handelman. I'm not Josh Nelson. I'm David Benoit, and I have my own sound, and I kind of like it. I like my sound. I was talking to Mike Lang about that, who played on 2,000 recordings, the top studio musician. He said, I've just decided finally I like the way I play the piano. And it was like when I was listening back to the playbacks at Tally's place, yeah, I like the way I'm playing. I like the way I'm approaching the instrument. I don't care if I don't have a million chops or I can't play giant steps backwards and forwards in 5/4 in the key of E or whatever it is. I like the way I play. And it's Mark, it's like what you were saying. It's the same thing. We come to that point in our lives, screw it, what people think, we start to be comfortable in our own skin, I guess.
That's beautiful. Yeah, both of those are totally deep. Yeah, totally deep.
Well, the thing I want to say, one of the interesting things about David and me is we've been friends for 37 years. And, in
old
some
friends.
ways, old friends, we seem like we're different, but David and I are very similar in a lot of ways. Our families sort of overlap, the way we were as young men. We definitely grew up in the same period of time of music. So David and I sort of, when you're talking, David, it's sort of like I'm talking. So we share, we're dissimilar. And, he's a Manhattan Beach guy. I'm sort of a city guy. But there's differences, but there's a lot of similarities, So this album, it's really it's really 1 + 1 = 4. This album, it really took me to a place that I didn't know I could go, because David and I were so comfortable with each other. And David, first of all, David is a fantastic arranger, fantastic piano player. I love his piano playing, never didn't love it. I always thought he was great. We're good together. That's the funny thing, is we're actually really good together. And some of the things I've done on this record, I just love.
I agree, all the above, yeah.
Yeah, and I can tell the chemistry. I mean, it's been a relatively short conversation, but I can tell that there's the chemistry. So I'm really looking forward to spinning this on the program. Thank you for being so gracious with your time and talking with me here at Neon Jazz. I appreciate it.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Joe.
you. I appreciate it very much.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest cats in Los Angeles, New York City, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to both Mark and David for their time, class, and cool. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino in the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz at youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz all the time, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Everything. I've got everything I need.
Neon Jazz.